Hello everyone, my name is Miss Syret and I'm delighted to be with you today to talk about studying English literature at A-level. So I suppose the best place to start really is this question, why should you study literature at A-level? And as I was putting this presentation together, I thought I would pose this question to a fellow group of English teachers, and as you can imagine, I was inundated with a huge range of responses. And they began quite simply from we read to know we're not alone, and they progressed to things more profound, particularly this one where it talks about you think your pain and your heartbreak are unprecedented in the history of the world, but then you read. It was books that taught me that the things that tormented me most were the very things that connected me with all the people who were alive who had ever been alive. And I read that and I thought, wow, I have to share this with Year 11. And I could have filled slide upon slide of a variety of reasons as to why your teachers felt that you should study literature. And the main one, of course, is that actually you do have to love reading. And I suppose really it does go without saying that if you are studying English literature at A-level, that you do love reading. You do spend an enormous amount of your time reading, not just the set text that you are studying in class, but also around the text itself, so the historical context, the social context. You read critical ideas and theories about these particular works of literature. But sometimes it is a little bit more than just reading. And again, as I was thinking about this presentation, thinking about what do I actually try and say to Year 11 about the brilliance of literature at A-level, what about if you were a huge fan of art? What if you are an artist? What if you really loved art, but also you loved reading? Wouldn't it be wonderful to explore the original medieval manuscripts that combined art and text together for the first time? What about studying the portrait of Dorian Gray and the way in which Oscar Wilde uses the aestheticism of portraiture and of art to show the degeneration of mankind? What if you wanted to explore one of the most brilliant modern novels, The Night Circus, that interweaves art and drama and life and love into the most beautiful story? And what if you loved history? What if you considered yourself to be an historian? Wouldn't it be wonderful to explore your most favourite periods of history through literature? What if your specialism was First World War and you could then explore the literature, the works that came out of that particular period of history, not just the poems of Wilfred Owen, but looking at the novels of Robert Graves, exploring the poetry of Rupert Brooke? What if you absolutely loved the suffragette movement? What if your period of history was this moment in time, this significant moment in time? What about looking at the writings of the Pankhurst family? What about looking at the poems and the newspapers and the novels that emerged at this most significant moment for women's liberation? And what if your passion were philosophy or ethics or RS? Wouldn't it be wonderful to explore that question of what makes us human, what makes mankind mankind, through works such as Milton's Paradise Lost, which explores the concepts of heaven and hell and how these might look on an earthly plane? And what if you were a scientist? What if you wanted to explore those boundaries between science and nature, between science and mankind, between science and belief? And I'm sure there are many of you who have read and indeed watched the wonderful His Dark Materials trilogy by Philip Pullman. So the question, why should I study literature? Why should you study literature? Really becomes, well, why not? Because it encompasses so many different facets of things that you enjoy. It teaches us about empathy. It teaches us about language. It teaches us understanding, love, humanity. It teaches us about life. So what does the A-level literature course look like at Lavington School? Well, we study the OCR specification, and it is broken down into 3 components. So we have Shakespeare and drama and poetry pre-1900, we have comparative and contextual study, and we have a coursework component. And at GCSE, we would expect you to achieve either a grade 5 or a grade 6. So what's really wonderful about this A-level course is the variety of texts from which you would choose. So for component 1, for example, we do have to study a Shakespeare play. We never escape Shakespeare at whatever level we study literature at. But it might be The Tempest, it might be Hamlet, it might be Richard III. And in terms of drama, it might be The Duchess of Malfi, it might be A Doll's House, it could be An Ideal Husband. We could be looking at Paradise Lost for the poetry. We could be looking at Chaucer's The Merchant's Prologue and Tale. But a lot of it comes down to teacher choice and indeed the likes and dislikes of the group itself. And that freedom of choice really continues through into component 2, the comparative and contextual study. And it might be that you study American literature. So you look at the influence of The Great Gatsby and you look at the significance of The Grapes of Wrath. It might be that you study Gothic literature. So looking at Dracula by Bram Stoker and The Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter. It might be that you look at dystopia and the enduring significance of Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale and George Orwell's 1984. And again, this comes down to teacher choice in discussion with the group. And component 3, which is the coursework element, is really your choice. You will study text as a stimulus, so something like A Streetcar Named Desire, but you are able to choose your own text for which to explore. So if you are particularly interested in the use of science in literature, you can explore 2 texts looking at similar themes and ideas. If you're really passionate about women's literature and women's voices in literature and how madness, for example, might be portrayed, you could look at The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman and see how those themes change over time. But the coursework element is really where you get to explore your areas of passion for literature. And I wanted to end by sharing with you one of my favourite lines from E.M. Forster's Howard's End. And in it he writes, "Science explained people but could not understand them." And that is what literature does. It explores and it attempts to understand the human experience through the written word. And if you are interested in hearing more about this, please do contact me either via email or come and find me at break and lunch. Thank you.